The charity gala sparkled under chandeliers, but the real electricity came when Rebecca Hayes crossed the room, wearing a smile sharp as a blade.
Frank, darling, I took care of that hideous cellar door for you. Consider it my gift to the neighborhood.
Took care of it. What exactly does that mean, Rebecca?
Bricked it shut. No more ugly old door offending our community standards. You can thank me later.
Frank's face went still. Without another word, he led her past startled guests, down the stone steps to the cellar entrance. Where the old oak door once stood, there was now a solid wall of red brick. The mortar was still rough to the touch.
You have no idea what you've just sealed inside, Rebecca. No idea at all.
He pulled a folded document from his jacket, its embossed seal catching the hallway light.
Probate court order. Behind this brick is a deceased U.S. Senator's whiskey collection, bonded at $1.8 million, waiting for auction.
Rebecca's hand flew to her throat. The gala chatter above faded into a vacuum, replaced by the weight of a federal crime. But the chain of calamity had started 3 days earlier, in the quiet of Frank MacLeod's study.
The Senator's whiskey collection is insured, cataloged, and ready for Saturday's auction. Everything is in order.
And every bottle is a probate-bonded asset. One scratch on that bond and the auction is dead. Frank, dead.
The foundation auction was the primary lifeline for a veterans charity the late senator had championed. That afternoon, a courier arrived with a certified letter, bearing the HOA seal. The notice read, "The cellar door violates neighborhood aesthetic standards. Remove it immediately or the HOA will seek legal remedy."
Frank's little wine door is an eyesore. I'll have it bricked up myself if he doesn't cooperate.
This isn't just about aesthetics. If she touches that door, she's jeopardizing federal probate.
Then you tell her, Frank, before that gala, tell her exactly what's behind that door.
But Frank knew Rebecca. Telling her would only make the door a target. 2 nights before the gala, the HOA board convened in the sterile community room. Rebecca presided like a queen, addressing courtiers.
Item 1. The MacLeod cellar door. It's an unpermitted eyesore dragging down property values. I move we order its removal within 7 days.
That door has been part of this estate for over a century. It's grandfathered under historic preservation codes. You have no authority over it.
Historic preservation. Please. This HOA governs aesthetics, and that rotting oak offends every standard we have. I've already filed the complaint.
Rebecca, perhaps we should consider a compromise. Frank's property is the oldest in the neighborhood.
The rules apply to everyone. Linda, even Frank. Now, let's vote. All in favor of mandated removal?
3 hands went up. Only Linda's wavered and remained still. The motion carried.
You have until Saturday, Frank. Remove it, or the HOA will hire contractors and bill you. I'd hate for things to get messy.
If she only knew what she's threatening. But telling her now would be like handing her a grenade.
Frank left the meeting with an ultimatum and a secret. The clock was now ticking toward catastrophe. The next morning, Frank huddled with Marcy Simmons and Roger Holt in the cellar, finalizing every auction detail.
This auction funds the entire Veterans Counseling Program. If anything goes wrong tonight, we lose it all.
The probate bond is unbreakable as long as the collection stays sealed. Nothing will go wrong.
Across town, Rebecca Hayes was making a very different kind of preparation.
Tony, I need you to brick up a door during the gala tonight. Double your rate, cash. No questions.
I don't like sneaking around. But for double pay, fine, we'll be quiet.
Frank thinks he can defy me. He'll find that door gone tonight. The perfect surprise.
Rebecca, this feels wrong. What if there's something inside that cellar you don't know about?
It's an old wine cellar, Linda. Nothing but dust and cobwebs. Now stop worrying and enjoy the show.
As the gala staff draped silk over chairs, 2 separate plans hurtled toward their collision. By 7 o'clock, the estate blazed with light and laughter. Valets parked a stream of luxury cars, and champagne flutes clinked like wind chimes.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Tonight we celebrate more than whiskey. We honor a legacy of service.
He led a select group down to the cellar, where the whiskey cabinets gleamed under soft lights. Gasps of admiration rippled through the group.
Enjoy the view while you can, Frank. In an hour, that door will be history. Excuse me. I need to check on the caterers. A hostess's work is never done.
In the service corridor, Tony and his crew unloaded bricks and mortar. The muffled sounds of the gala masked their movements.
Quick and quiet. She wants it done before the auction.
The first brick was laid against the oak frame. Methodically, layer by layer, the doorway began to vanish.
The auction begins in 30 minutes. Please enjoy the cellar until then.
Upstairs, a string quartet swelled. Downstairs, the wall rose, brick by brick, sealing away more than anyone knew. As the auction hour neared, Frank gathered the VIPs and led them down the stone steps for the ceremonial preview. At the bottom, they halted. Where the old oak door had stood, a rough wall of fresh brick and mortar filled the archway. A trustee whispered, "Is this the wrong entrance?" Confused murmurs rippled through the group.
Number. This was my wine cellar.
From behind the crowd, Rebecca's voice cut in, bright and brittle as spun sugar.
Frank, darling, you didn't tell me you'd started renovations. I had it sealed just in time. A surprise for the gala.
Frank took her arm and steered her into a service alcove, his grip hard enough to leave a mark.
You just sealed $1.8 million of probate bonded whiskey. A senator's estate. The auction is dead, Rebecca.
That's absurd. It's just an old cellar. You are bluffing.
But the document in his hand was no bluff. As color drained from her face, the gala outside dissolved into whispers and widening cracks. Frank stepped into the butler's pantry, already pressing David's number. The gala's glow had turned harsh and unsteady.
David, the cellar's bricked shut. Rebecca, get here now and call the probate board.
On the other end, David Brenner's blood ran cold. The probate bond was breached, the auction dead. In the ballroom, Marcy Simmons heard the whisper. She grabbed the back of a chair, her foundation's future crumbling.
All those veterans. We promised them. That money was their lifeline.
This is Frank's fault. He should have told the HOA what was in there.
But the crowd had already turned. Roger Holt climbed the podium, his gavel hand trembling.
Ladies and gentlemen, due to an unforeseen situation, tonight's auction is cancelled.
A collective exhale of disbelief, then the rustle of coats and the clatter of abandoned glasses. Rebecca stood alone near the bricked arch, her protest swallowed by the sound of a cause dying. Outside, a black government SUV idled at the estate gates. Margaret Stern stepped out with the deliberate calm of someone who had handled crises for a senator.
Mr. McLeod, I've been fully briefed. Take me to the cellar. Now.
She studied the fresh brick wall with clinical detachment, as if cataloging evidence for a future prosecution.
This is no longer an HOA matter. Tampering with a probate bonded asset is a federal crime. The senator's widow will be informed immediately. This is my neighborhood. You have no authority here. I have more authority than you can imagine, Mrs. Hayes. Sit down, or I'll have you removed.
Margaret pulled out her phone and dialed. Her voice dropped, but carried the weight of an entire political legacy.
Eleanor, it's Margaret. There's been an incident at the estate. The whiskey collection has been sealed off. I'll have details when you are ready.
Across the room, Rebecca's face contorted. The HOA president reduced to a spectator in her own disaster. For the first time, Rebecca didn't argue. She just stared at the door of the study as if the walls had closed around her. By 8 the next morning, a news van idled at the estate gate, its antenna raised like a spear. Inside the community center, the HOA board gathered in emergency session. The air was thick with blame.
I knew she hired the Masons. I tried to stop her, but she said it was just an old cellar.
You traitor. I was enforcing our standards. Frank brought this on himself.
The board fractured. No vote to remove her yet, but the damage was done. Her own secretary had exposed her. At the estate gate, Frank McLeod emerged, calm in a crisply pressed shirt, and faced the cluster of microphones.
Last night, the cellar door of this estate was illegally sealed. Inside is a probate bonded asset of a deceased U.S. senator. That's all I can say for now.
Neighbors clustered on the sidewalk. phones out, whispering the name Rebecca like a curse. From her own front window, Rebecca watched the crowd, her breath fogging the glass. The story was no longer hers to contain. It was a blaze moving uphill, and the wind was behind it. In Washington, Eleanor Caldwell sat alone in her wood-paneled study, the case file from Margaret open on the desk.
Rebecca Hayes. I know that name. From a long time ago.
She opened a drawer and withdrew an old framed sorority composite. Its edges yellowed. Her finger traced a face in the second row. A young blonde woman, with a sharp, ambitious smile.
She called me sister. She smiled for the pictures, then whispered lies to the chapter president.
An old betrayal surfaced. A coveted internship stolen, a friendship poisoned for ambition.
Now she's the HOA president who destroyed my husband's legacy. It's not coincidence. It's her nature.
She picked up the phone and dialed Margaret Stern with a steady hand.
Margaret, the woman who did this. Her name is Rebecca Hayes. She was my sorority sister. I'll handle this personally.
The line between justice and vengeance blurred. Eleanor Caldwell was no longer just the senator's widow. The phone rang in Rebecca's kitchen. She glanced at the unknown number, hesitated, and picked up.
Rebecca Hayes speaking.
Hello, Rebecca. It's been a long time.
Rebecca's fingers whitened on the handset. That voice, it reached back 30 years.
Do you remember me, sister? Or did you erase me like you erased that internship and everything else you took?
Ellie, I didn't know that was your husband's collection. I never meant to.
Eleanor's voice dropped to a blade's edge.
You never meant anything except what you could take. But this time, Rebecca, you've stolen from my husband's grave, and I will not let it go.
The line went dead. Rebecca stared at the phone, her mouth open, the dial tone a hollow accusation. She'd just made an enemy who knew every secret she'd buried, and this one had nothing left to lose. 2 days later, FBI agent Miller stepped onto Frank's porch with a warrant and a recorder.
Here is the probate order, her HOA notice, and the contractor's statement. She planned every brick.
That same afternoon, Tony Mason sat under a bare bulb in an interrogation room, sweat darkening his collar.
She handed me 10 grand cash, told me to keep my mouth shut and finish before the auction started.
But Rebecca wasn't done. She called Tony from a burner phone, her voice tight.
30,000 more if you say the HOA confused you. Blame Frank. I'll make it worth your silence.
Tony took the envelope, his pocket heavy with the phone that was still recording.
You got it. I'll take care of it.
The next morning, Agent Miller listened to the recording in stunned silence. Rebecca Hayes had just paid for a felony. The tape was rolling and the trap was set. That evening, every major network interrupted programming for a breaking news teaser.
Tonight, Senator Caldwell's widow breaks her silence. An exclusive interview you cannot miss.
In her darkened living room, Rebecca Hayes stared at the screen, a glass slipping from her fingers.
Get me a lawyer. Now, this is slander, defamation. I'll sue.
But her attorney's voice was thin. He knew a federal case when he saw one. Across town, Frank McLeod sat alone in his study, the promo's echo fading into crackling silence.
She's going to name her. Everyone will know.
On social media, the hashtag number Caldwell interview trended within minutes. Rebecca's phone buzzed with messages, each one a needle of panic. She had one play left: stop the broadcast. But she couldn't reach a single person who could help. The broadcast began. Eleanor Caldwell sat across from Carrie Davis, her hands folded, her eyes clear.
My husband spent 30 years collecting those bottles. He planned to auction them for a veterans counseling program. It was his last act of service.
And now?
Now they're behind a brick wall, sealed by someone who knew exactly what she was doing.
On screen, a split image appeared, the old sorority composite beside a recent photo of Rebecca Hayes.
Her name is Rebecca Hayes. She was my sorority sister. She smiled at me for years, then stole everything she could.
In her living room, Rebecca stood rigid, her mouth open. A scream caught in her throat.
Numb. No, she can't.
But Eleanor wasn't finished. She looked directly into the camera. By the time the credits rolled, number Rebecca Hayes was trending worldwide, and the foundation's donation page was crashing under the weight of public fury. Her phone lay on the counter, buzzing without pause. A stream of hate and threats. Rebecca stared at it, then hurled it across the room. The HOA board called an emergency session by video link. No one waited for Rebecca.
The board has voted to remove Rebecca Hayes as president, effective immediately. Her actions do not reflect this community.
Rebecca heard the news through a neighbor's text. She slumped against her hallway wall, the last shred of power gone. But while the HOA turned on her, the public turned toward the foundation. The site, crashed earlier, now surged past $250,000 in donations before midnight. At the estate, Frank McLeod watched the coverage without celebration.
They're not cheering for me, they're angry for the veterans. That's all that matters.
Rebecca barricaded her front door with a chair and drew every blind. The world outside had branded her name. She was alone. And the next knock at her door wouldn't be a reporter. 3 black SUVs idled outside Rebecca's home. Agent Miller stepped onto the curb, warrant in hand.
Rebecca Hayes, you are under arrest for tampering with probate assets and witness bribery.
Rebecca backed into the hall, but the handcuffs were already out. Every neighbor's phone was up. She was led out in her own clothes. No magenta cocktail dress now, just sweatpants and a slack face. The footage ran live. In his study, Frank McLeod stood with arms crossed, watching without pleasure.
It won't bring back the auction, but it's a start.
Within hours, the probate court issued an emergency order to remove the brick wall and recover the collection.
Get the masons ready. Not the same crew, obviously. We'll do it right this time.
The next morning, masons in white hard hats gathered with chisels, not trowels. The brick that had sealed the senator's legacy was about to come down. The first brick came loose with a dry scrape. Behind it, darkness and the smell of old oak.
Easy now. If one bottle breaks, it's a different kind of disaster.
The workers peeled back the wall brick by brick, revealing the glass cabinets. Not a single bottle had shifted. An appraiser stepped forward with a clipboard, checking labels against the catalog.
It's all here. Every bottle. She couldn't touch them.
Margaret Stern nodded once, her tablet documenting the moment for Eleanor's office. The Caldwell Foundation issued a statement. The auction would resume in 2 weeks. The news sparked a flood of new registrations. The servers strained again, but this time with hope. Frank exhaled slowly. The weight he'd carried since the gala cracked, but did not break. For now, the cellar door stood open. And for the first time in days, so did the future. 6 weeks later, Rebecca Hayes stood in federal court. A gray suit replacing her magenta dress, veterans filled the gallery. Eleanor Caldwell rose for her victim statement. Her voice carried the weight of a widow and a sister betrayed.
You sealed his legacy behind brick, and you used my name to climb where you are.
Rebecca flinched. Her lawyer touched her arm, but she didn't move. The judge's voice was flat. Felony tampering, probation, community service, and $1.8 million restitution. Her house, her cars, her investments, liquidated to pay the debt. In the back row, Frank McLeod sat with his arms crossed, his face unreadable. Her shoulders shook. No cameras she wanted now. When the gavel struck, Frank rose and walked out without a backward glance. The courtroom emptied, leaving only the smell of old wood and the echo of a defined life. 3 months after the gala, that shattered a legacy, a new hall filled with veterans in dress blues and donors in black tie.
This man held the line when my husband's legacy was sealed behind brick. He refused to let it die.
Frank gave a small nod, his hands clasped in front of him. No smirk, no grand gesture, just a quiet presence.
Lot 47. The senator's personal cask, bottled in 74. Bidding starts at 50,000.
Paddles shot up like struck matches. The bidding war escalated in seconds.
Sold for 110,000.
Marcy Simmons pressed a hand to her heart, tears glazing her cheeks. In the afterglow, Frank approached the podium from the wings. He carried a single bottle wrapped in velvet.
My grandfather's private reserve. He believed in what the senator fought for. It belongs to the foundation.
The room rose as one. The total raised far surpassed the original estimates, and the foundation's future was no longer in doubt. That evening, the estate fell quiet. Frank stepped into his study, the only light from the fire and a single lamp. A cream envelope rested on the desk. His name in perfect script.
Dear Frank, you honored my husband's memory and reminded me that integrity has a long echo. Thank you, Eleanor.
He folded the note and rose. Walking through the silent house to the cellar, below the bronze plaque, he stopped. His grandfather's name next to a senator's.
2 men who never met, linked by whiskey and now by this door.
Back in the study, he opened his grandfather's ledger, the same one that held a lifetime of quiet persistence.
He kept every receipt, every record. He knew what to leave behind.
He closed the book. Outside, the estate settled into a deep, deserved silence. Some doors were meant to be bricked up, and some were meant to stay open forever. By sunrise the next morning, small bouquets dotted the estate gate, daisies, carnations, notes in unsteady handwriting. One card read, "Mr. McLeod, you stood when others bent. Our veterans are grateful." Frank collected each bundle, carrying them inside as gently as if they were fragile heirlooms. At the cellar, the bronze plaque caught the early light, the engraved names sharp and warm. He brushed a thumb over his grandfather's name, then the senator's. A silent acknowledgement. In the garden, the steady snip of shears as he pruned the old rose bushes back into order.
Integrity is not a lost virtue. It waits, patient, for someone to live it out loud.
On the back porch, Frank swirled his grandfather's whiskey, watching the sunset streak the sky.
He built this estate to endure, and against all odds it has.
The cellar door stood open as night fell, a bronze gleam in the starlight, and a promise kept. The next dusk painted the estate in amber stillness. The cellar door stood open, a dark rectangle against the golden stone. Frank McLeod walked down the gravel path, his pace unhurried, his hands loose at his sides. He stopped at the threshold, glancing at the bronze plaque.
Not a door anymore, a bridge.
He ducked inside the cellar, swallowed by the cool dark, as if stepping into something unfinished yet whole. Sometimes, the smallest act of pettiness unearths the deepest wells of justice. Behind a wall of brick, a legacy had waited. Behind this open door, it lived. The estate settled into the night, its windows glowing with a warmth that had nothing to do with light, and the cellar door stayed open, a bronze gleam in the starlight, a promise kept. In the end, it wasn't about the whiskey. It was about what we owe each other.